I didn't want anybody to call me slack. As you can tell that it's cold and it's rainy and it's wet, and it is not a day that I can be out there doing any body work. So give me a break, guys. Come on. Okay, hey, I'm David from Redneck Garage. Today is a history lesson. It's too cold and wet to work on the vehicle out in the driveway, so here you go. A little bit of added value just because you're a subscriber of the Redneck Garage. Awesome! As we're doing this part of the body work of the car, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting to know some history on how this came to be? The history of body work, and it's not real sexy or glamorous. There's a lot of history books written, but you won't find many about doing body work back in the 40s and the 50s. But here goes. Back in the 40s and the 50s, the cars were made of very, very thick steel after World War II. Very rigid. You can see that this is a really thick metal and it's very rigid. As cars progressed, they lightened up that metal to make compound curves, to make the cars lighter, to get better gas mileage, etc., etc. Back then, what they would do is put flux on the metal, they would heat it up, and they would apply lead with a tinning it looks kind of like a spatula, and they would spread that lead over, and then they would sand it down. And that was great, except for the fact of as the metals got much thinner and lighter, it would cause a lot of warpage to that steel. The finish would be all warped up where they heated it up with the thing. So they thought there's got to be a better way. A lot of people think that they made it illegal to do leading on cars, and that's not true. They still do. Some restoration shops still use lead or a lead substitute to do that. They never made it illegal, but it was very, very difficult because of the substrate they were using. That metal would warp so badly. Okay, so here we go. We're in the early 50s and they're trying to come up with something better to do body work. There was something called the boat industry that used fiberglass, which came about in very much a similar fashion in the early 1950s. Glastron Industries, many other boat manufacturers started using fiberglass to build boats. So back in 1950s, there was this cat named Robert Spinks. He decided there must be a better way, so he set out to invent a better way to do body work. He took talcum powder, we call it baby powder now, and mixed it with the polyester resin that they used in the boating industry. Of course, it had to have a hardener also. He took a bowl and put it in a bread mixer and mixed up the talcum powder and the polyester resin, and a new product was born which later became known as bondo. Bondo is a generic term for all the plastic fillers that we use today. It was lightweight, it was easy to spread. The first bondos that were made were very hard to work with. Because of the hardness, you almost had to take a grinder and grind them off because you couldn't use sandpaper on them. Created a huge dust cloud. And as things progressed, through the years we came up with lightweight body fillers which have glass beads in them. That creates an ability to use sandpaper, other medium, to sand it down without having to use a grinder and create a big huge cloud. The composition of these products through the years has gotten much better also than that first set of bondo. It's not as hard, it's easier to sand, there's been a lot of advancements in it, but even today we say we're going to go do some bondo. Interesting thoughts from the Redneck Garage. Now let's get back to the Jeep. Hopefully it's the next day now where it's warm and we can actually do some work. Okay, so it's day 2 of not being able to work on the Jeep because of the inclement cold weather. Actually, it's just really the wet weather. The temperature isn't so bad. It's probably between 45 and 50 during the day here. It's supposed to be warming up. So I just thought about what I could talk about today. And if you noticed in a video or two back, I pulled up to Randy's house with Jennifer, my wife.
Yeah.
There's Randy! Hey. We're up at his redneck portion of the woods instead of our redneck portion of the woods. We're going to be up here. They're going to tear this house down this week. Poor Monica.
Oh, they're tearing the whole thing down?
Yeah, it's toast. Yeah. Okay, and then you noticed that I said that they're going to be tearing the house down. Well, that started today. But I thought I'd give you a little backstory on that. What really happened? There's a redneck connection to this. So one night Randy called me and he said, hey, so-and-so's house is on fire. And I said, what? And I said, really? And he says, yes. So I walked on over and this is what I saw. So at first we thought, was it electrical? Was it a lightning strike? You know, what the heck happened? Kids playing with matches? No, it was a redneck, but not just any redneck. It was a crazy redneck. Evidently our neighbor had gotten into a fight with her husband, and she was a sweet gal. And when she got in a fight, she went down to the end of the street to the neighbor's house. Now this is how they reported it on the news.
Now with breaking news, this is News Channel 5 at 10.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Kristen Presell. We begin with breaking news tonight as crews battle a house fire in Franklin. News Channel 5's Chris Cannon is live on the scene in Williamson County. And Chris, it was intentionally started, I understand.
That's what police are telling us at this hour, Kristen, and as you can see, this is still a very active scene here on Eastover Court. We're just off of Del Rio Pike. At 7:43 this evening, a 911 call came into Franklin Fire and Police saying there was a domestic disturbance in this house here that you can see was heavily damaged by fire. We were told at that time, the 911 call told the person that they had intentionally set the fire. Other family members did make it out of that house. Let's take a look at some pictures from the height of this fire that in the fire department to put this fire out. Now, when firefighters arrived on the scene, along with police, there was still a man barricaded inside this house. The man who had started this domestic disturbance, according to police, was still inside that house, and he was known to be possibly armed. So at that time, firefighters had to back off while police did their job. We talked to Lieutenant Charlie Warner about that just a few minutes ago.
When officers arrived, this was a very rapidly evolving situation. We knew that there was an intentionally set fire that was spawned from a domestic. We knew that the suspect was inside, barricaded and possibly armed, and that the other residents had escaped the home. Firefighters had to wait for a moment until we were able to confirm that they could safely proceed at doing what they're trained to do. Once we were able to talk the suspect out of the house and order him out, get him on the ground and into custody, the firefighters then immediately started to extinguish the blaze.
So this cat gets drunk, and being a redneck, he figures the best thing to do is to go ahead and light all her clothes on fire in her closet and continue to drink. Well, the kids upstairs ran down to where their mom was at and said, "Hey, he set the house on fire." Well, he won't get out of the house. So you get the fire department rolling up and the police rolling up. Well, he won't come out of the house. They think he might have a gun. So this whole time, instead of him coming out and them fighting the fire, the house is just blazing. Well, finally, they get him out of there, and when they bring him out, they thump his head on his truck that's in the driveway. He thumped the heck out of his head, the police did, because he tripped coming out. Here's a picture of him in his booking photo. Wow. So, anyway, the culmination of all of that is, sadly, here's what happens when a redneck burns your house down and you're related to him. The insurance company will not pay the claim because it's considered arson. You get to watch your house being torn down and you end up with nothing. That's it, man. It's gone. It's a big pile of crap. So I feel really sorry for her. But that's my redneck story of the day. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be getting onto the Jeep, or the next couple days anyway. It should be warming up. One less neighbor, man. That's really sad. That's what you get with rednecks, though. I'm David from the Redneck Garage. Keep turning wrenches.